Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Maharaja, which is a 2021 release board game designed by Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. Now this is a re-implementation of a game of the same name that came out in 2014, which, to be honest, I've never played. I heard there are a few differences between this version and the original version. However, I couldn't give an example of what those are because, again, I haven't played the original. This one takes around 90 minutes to play and accommodates 1 to 4 players. Now, if you are familiar with Wolfgang Kramer, he is a designer who is very much known for his area control style games, and this one is very much of that ilk. So the game is going to take place on this massive board here where you've got these different cities, as you can see, depicted by these big circles. You've got the roads in between them, and your player piece is going to start in the middle of the table like this. Of course, if you've got more players, there would be more pieces here, but I'm just using this setup as an example. At the bottom of the board, you've got this track here which shows the different cities in which the Maharaja is going to visit in this particular order. So at the moment, the Maharaja is going to visit this city, which I've already prepared and placed him in that spot accordingly. But this is subject to change depending on the actions the players take. Now, the objective of the game is to have the most victory points by the end of 7 rounds, or until a player has placed his 7th statue. Because in addition to this huge board in the centre of the table, you've got your own individual player board, which shows a number of different things, such as being a space where you can hold your coins and your victory points. You're also going to have your statues here. As I said, you've got 7 of those, and you're going to get 3 points for each of those you've erected by the end of the game. You've got your action wheel, which is what you're going to use to determine the actions you're going to take in each particular round. And you've got to hold a kind of storage space for your little shrines here. And you've got the potential to bring more shrines into that area to be deployed onto the board. And on top of all of that, each player is going to have a unique player power, which is depicted by this tile here. And as you can see, not only are you going to get a special ability, so in this example, I'm going to be able to place statues at -3 discount at any time during the game. It's also going to have an initiative value, which is going to determine the order in which players take their actions. So the lower the number, the quicker you are going to get to take your actions. So let's talk about the flow of the game and how it actually plays out. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to deploy the Maharaja in the corresponding spot, currently in front of this chain here, and then you're going to move that to the back of the queue, meaning that it's going to be the longest possible time for that to come back round to the front. But this is manipulatable, which I'll explain later. So at the moment, the next city that the Maharaja is going to visit is going to be this one here, which corresponds to this city at the top like this. So on any time in a player's turn, they can choose to traverse the board by going from spot to spot, travelling down these roads, as long as there is a shrine somewhere on that road. So for example here, you've got a shrine here, and the colour is also very important, because if I was to use a road of my own shrine on it, then I'm not going to have to pay anything. But if I was to use a road with someone else's shrine on it where I don't have my own shrine, then I'm going to have to pay that player, or even players, 1 coin each for using that road. So as a general rule of thumb, you are going to want to control the regions where the Maharaja currently is. And to do that, you're going to have to build statues and you're going to have to build shrines. But you can only do that where your current worshipper is. Now, when you build these statues and shrines, they're going to give you a number of worship points depending on where those shrines or statues are placed. So, for example, if I was to place a statue on this middle spot here, that's going to be worth 3 worship points when their total was tallied. If they're placed on one of these outside spots here, then they're going to be worth 2, and sometimes you're even going to get a bonus such as coins or points. And if you ever place a shrine on the outside of the rim here, they're going to be worth 1 worship point. So let's talk about how you're actually going to take these actions and how you are going to build the shrines and statues in the first place. So as I said in the intro, all actions determined by the players are going to be used using this action wheel, which is almost like a clock face. So what you can do is you can choose 2 different actions, or you can even choose 2 of the same actions, and they are going to show the actions you can take that turn. Now this is all going to be done simultaneously and then revealed simultaneously, and then in player order, again, based on initiative, those actions are going to be resolved in any order you wish. So let's talk about what some of those actions actually are. So the first thing here is to build a shrine at a -1 discount, sorry, a statue at a -1 discount. The second thing you can do is to build a statue and a shrine, but only based on or paying full cost. You can take 3 coins from the bank. You can take 2 shrines from your common pool and into your personal supply ready to be deployed. You can basically trade money into victory points. You can place 2 shrines on the board, one of which has to be in a city. You can place a shrine for free. You can manipulate the order of the Maharaja track here. So what you'd do is you'd select one of the tiles that you want and you move it 3 places to the left, which was going to manipulate the order and determine a new spot where the Maharaja is going to go next. And you can swap player powers with another player or from the common supply. So depending on the player count, there's going to be a number of player powers plus 3, I believe. So you're always going to have the ability to not only swap with another player should you think their power is particularly good, or you want the lower initiative, or you can swap from ones from the common pool. Now, once all players have taken their actions, then the city where the Maharaja currently is going to be tallied up and coins are going to be dished out depending on who has the majority in that region. So in this example here, this would be calculated, and all these different statues are going to be worth different points. So, for example, the middle spot here is going to be worth 3 worship points, and the blue player has another shrine on the outside for an additional 1 worship point for a total of 4. The yellow player here has 2 worship points here because it's on the outside rim, plus another one because their player piece is there for a total of 3 so far. And 2 shrines on the outer rim for another +2 for a total of 5. So in this particular example, the yellow player would have the majority and the blue player would be in second place. And of course, in a 3 or 4 player game, those places would also be dished out. And rewards will be granted based on this track here. So the player with the most worship points in that region is going to get 12 coins, second is going to get 10, third is going to get 8, and fourth is going to get 6. If a player has no coverage in that city whatsoever, then you're going to get a consolation 3 coins from the bank. Now, also in addition to that, you're going to get to select one of these bonus tiles, which can give you nice little things such as giving you victory points, being able to take shrines and putting them into your personal area here, being able to just take coins, being able to take coins and victory points and so on. But again, depending on the player count, you can only take them from certain spots on the board. So, in a 3-player game, you could only go up to this spot here. And once the reward is taken, you would take that tile and move it to the top of the track here like this, meaning that it's going to be a while till it comes back round again, and then all the other players are going to do the same thing. Now, once all that money's been dished out, then you are going to go to the end of the round where this is going to shift to the right. The Maharaja is going to move to the next spot in the following phase, and all these are going to shift down like so. And that's going to be basically how the game is going to play out. You're going to be trying to get your statues down because they're going to be worth points each. You're going to be trying to get the majorities in the cities because whatever city you're controlling at the end of the game, you're going to get 2 points for each of those. And of course, you're going to get points for additional money. So let's talk about how I feel about the game. So mechanically, the game is pretty simple. I like these action wheels. I think the simultaneous selection is quite interesting, and also the order in which you're doing the actions is also equally as interesting. Because again, initiative is so important in relation to what you're going to do, and being last in a certain spot is going to be sometimes useful because you can see what other people are controlling and you can maybe decide if going for that region is going to be worth going for or not. But at the same time, there might be certain spots on the board that you might want where people with lower initiative can go and grab before you, such as these bonus spots or even the central spots there, which of course are going to be worth more worship points. I also love the way that the Maharaja goes from spot to spot, from round to round, and that is completely manipulatable using this track. So if someone has maybe lined up their next turn by piling on a certain city, you can completely just throw the Maharaja off track and divert him somewhere else where you have majority. So I do like that, and I like the way it's all boiled down into just taking 2 pretty simple actions. I also really like the kind of network building here, where of course if you go down roads that you've got shrines on, then you're not going to have to pay anything, but going down roads where other people are, then you're going to have to pay them coins. So I really do like that, and it can actually end up costing you quite a bit of money if you don't invest in some kind of travel network. And being efficient and getting your money's worth out of those networks is something that's worth certainly considering. So that's really nice as well. I also like the shifting bonus system, where only certain spots are going to be there, and it's going to shift to the back. So again, having the majorities in the cities is not only going to be useful for the big bulk of money, which of course you're going to have to use to erect more statues in the first place, but also getting priority on taking the bonus tiles that you want. And that kind of ties hand in hand with the decision space in this game. I really do like the way that you have some kind of, a determined order in which these cities are going to be resolved in. So you can plan ahead of time and, really try and look into the future and think, in 3 turns time, then this city is going to be resolved, and I'm going to start investing early to get the majority there. Or am I going to just, act more compulsively and go to where the Maharaja is? But if you do that, then you're going to have to pay an additional fee of 2 coins when you erect a statue in the Maharaja's region. So you are almost incentivized to pre-plan rather than just acting more tactically and reactively to where the Maharaja is. So I do like that quite a lot. I also like the way that some of the player powers work, and one of the actions is of course to swap your player power with another player or with one of the common ones, and that can be used quite cleverly in order to give you some bonuses at certain times, and they all do lots of really cool things, as I said, such as having a discount when you're building statues, just simply getting victory points, getting coins, getting bonus actions, and being able to boost up your value of your shrine. So for every pair you have, it's worth an extra worship point. Even things such as being able to build anywhere on the board, even if you're not there. And these things are so interchangeable, and you can use them depending on your current needs. So there is that real kind of back and forth tug of war aspect of fighting for the powers that you want. So again, I really like that little wrinkle there, and it does add quite a lot of depth that might not be kind of visible at first appearances. The balance of the game is perfectly tuned. Yes, there are different player powers, but as I said, you can swap them with other players. So if you think that someone's got the better player power than you, then you can simply just swap it as an action. And now, is that going to be worth you using that action, or are you going to use your power to your benefit? Then that's completely up to you. I also like the fact that the initiative plays into this one as well, because as I said, you might want to have a slightly worse power, but be happy to have that because you get to go first every round. So that little trade-off is really nice. And in general, I think the balance is really good. Yeah, you're going to have to really invest in getting the majorities in these regions because erecting statues in the first place is not cheap, and you are going to have to fork out quite a bit of money should you want to start bashing them down. But you are rewarded by in-game points at the end of the game, of course. Replayability, I think, is pretty good actually, simply because there are so many player powers here. You're not going to use them all from game to game, and it really is going to change the feel of the game depending on which player powers are available. You've also got lots of kind of additional endgame scoring here. So normally you would only score for every erected statue for every city you're controlling, and 1 point for every 5 coins you have. But there are a lot of different tiles here which kind of tweak the value of these goods, or of your kind of coverage of the board, for slightly different experience and slightly different goals to aim for. Additionally, there are these different tiles as well, which can kind of just completely tweak the rules or slightly tweak the rules depending on your player or the experience that you want. Such as you can't swap your power with another player, only from the ones from the common pool. Things such as your player piece being worth 2 worship points rather than the standard 1. And all these little things, they might sound minor, and I suppose they are minor, but they can really influence the game and impact the way that you're going to take your decisions and the actions you're going to take throughout. Interaction, yeah, this is an area control game. You are obviously going to be jostling for position to control those majorities. But I think the additional wrinkle of knowing where the Maharaja is and kind of tailoring this to your needs, really. As I said, if someone wants to really pile on a city because they know it's coming on next, then you can just completely divert them and manipulate the order in which these are going to be resolved in, which can potentially mean that the city that someone's loaded loads on isn't actually going to get scored at all. So just another element of interaction there, in addition to the fighting for position in terms of where the Maharaja is. Of course, you've got the simultaneous selection as well, which can really impact on other players, because if you knew what other people are going to do, then you could divert your strategy accordingly. But knowing that everyone does it at the same time, then you're going to have to really get into the head of your opponent, because that can really determine what you're going to do from round to round. Production of this game is really good. This is a Kramer Creations game. The board, you can see, is absolutely huge. So if you've got a small table, this might be a bit of an issue. But it does certainly have some table presence, and the board, is massive. The player boards themselves are really good quality. They hold all the information you need. Again, pretty big, so the footprint of this game in total is going to be pretty massive, to be honest. The wheels themselves are very good and clearly illustrated. My only issue is that I wish the player pieces were wooden rather than this kind of plastic. Now, as far as plastic goes, these are good plastic. They're quite nice, chunky, durable pieces. But I think wooden pieces in Euro games are, very much go hand in hand. And I would have liked to have seen that, because I think that just feels right to me. And maybe these colours are just a little bit garish and a little bit cheap in terms of what a wooden production would have looked like. But in terms of the cardboard stock and things, I've got no complaints whatsoever. All really good, all good quality and well produced. Artwork as well, I think the board looks really nice. It has this nice landscape here, lots of little details throughout. And all the kind of powers and that on the cards all look good. So I've got no issues at all with the production. Maybe the board's just a little bit too big, but that's a very minor issue. Progression in the game, I do like. Yes, you are constantly adjusting for position to get the majorities. You do get somewhat of a network building as you go throughout as well. It's not a terribly long game. It only takes about 90 minutes, but it certainly doesn't feel stagnant. It doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing from start to finish, because as you start getting more money and stuff, you can start converting money into points. And points are actually not that common in this game. So it's a relatively low scoring game where you're not completely flooded with points. And that kind of changes the vibe a bit for this one, where every point is almost, really, really scarce, and you have to fight for every point that you're going to get. So, in terms of the progression and the way the game develops, I think it flows quite nicely, and it certainly doesn't outstay its welcome in terms of being too long or anything. Most of the play is, you do something simultaneously, and the actions that people are going to take are very hastily resolved, and you're not going to be bogged down by people being paralysed over the decisions they're going to make. So no issues at all with the time investment or the uptime or anything like that. So overall, I did enjoy Maharaja quite a bit. Now, I think naturally with a designer like Wolfgang Kramer, then you've got to compare it to some of his other area control games. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you might be aware that my favourite game of all time is El Grande, which is an area control game by Wolfgang Kramer. Now, this one has some very small similarities, but mainly different. I suppose the only main similarity is the fact that it is an area control game. But I think this one is different enough to warrant having both of them. But, that's my number one game of all time, and is this game as good as that? No, it's not. But as I said, it is different to that. It has a lot of different aspects to it. I really do like the way that you know the order in which this Maharaja is coming, and you can manipulate that. You can really use that to your advantage, and it reminds me of a game called Stafford Dynasty, which had a very similar mechanism, which I really liked. I really do like the scope of the player powers here. I think they add a lot of depth and interest to the game. I like the network building. I think that's quite interesting, and and using your player powers to your own ability, having an income of money from round to round in order to get the statues out. Yeah, I do like the way that everything works. I think it's pretty simple to explain. It's maybe on the lower end of the medium scale, but it still does have some depth here. And I think the more you play this game, those hidden layers of depth are going to start appearing. Because I think maybe when you play first, it might appear to be, well, this is pretty obvious. I'll just go to where the Maharaja is and start spamming, control pieces. But you'll soon find out that you'll run out of money and that you might overinvest in things because he's going to swiftly move on to the next location, and you'll find yourself well out of resources. So it really is a game about planning ahead and planning your routes efficiently, using your player powers to your advantage, and just controlling those regions and getting victory points. So a perfectly pleasant area control game. Not one of his best, but certainly, even an average Wolfgang Kramer game is going to be better than 99% of their games out there, because this designer is absolutely fantastic. But I'm not saying this game is average. I think it's way above average. I think it's really enjoyable. I think it's really well put together, and it does get my shield of quality. I would recommend this one if you are a particular fan of area control games and you want to play something a little bit different. I would happily play this again, and I will be playing it again, and hopefully finding some really cool setups on how these powers can mesh with each other. So yeah, a really good quality game. I'm happy with it, and again, it's going to stay in my collection for some time. That is Maharaja. Definitely check this one out if you do like your area control games. But regardless, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.